Hi, my name is Jason Impey and I play George Eastman in The Trip, also known as Naked Trip, depending on what version you've seen, and Crash Zoom as well. And I am the main actor as well as a few other roles that I took upon this production. Um, if I had to describe The Trip in one sentence for people who had not seen it, that is a tough one, by the way. I would say headfuck. Um, a journey through life. A journey through life, to be honest, is probably the best sentence I could come up with to describe that film for people who haven't seen it. Journey of a mentally challenged filmmaker, if you want to go a little bit more in depth there. But I think it's quite a deep film. I think there's a lot of subtext and a lot of artistic merit to be given to this film. To do in one sentence doesn't do it justice to because it looks at all kinds of areas and of life, and to me it's a very deep film. I look back on it with fond memories, and I'm very glad I'm part of it because it means quite a lot to me. It's quite a special production that I was involved with back in the day. So, when I met Alex Backshave, which was actually in September 2007, he came to a premiere of a film that I'd made. I'd made this feature film called Troubled, which was a Dog Me 95 style film meets exploitation, and I screened a few other short films I'd done, Revenge of the Dead, my Super 8 short film, and Lust, and which was a 16mm short film that I shot. And I did this kind of evening for contacts, friends, family, networking, and I put it on at Cineworld here in Milton Keynes, my hometown. And Alex was invited along because the director of photography on some of my films, Kamel Yildirim, had got to know Alex and told me that he was my kind of guy and up my street and well into the same sort of films and genres and cinema that I was. And I said, yeah, no, cool, invite him along. I always like to meet like-minded fellow filmmakers. And Alex came along and he had a good time, I think. He seemed to enjoy himself and like my work. And when I spoke to him that night, we hit it off straight away. We struck it off. I mean, we could talk about films and cinema forever, me and Alex. We've got a lot of love for the same filmmakers and films, and we can have great chats and in-depth conversations about this. So it was really nice to talk to someone who's into the same sort of thing as you. Really know. Through life, not everyone around me has always kind of appreciated or known about the kind of films that impact me and mean a lot. But like Alex was very, very cool to chat with, and it led on. He ended up making his short film Bittersweet, which I did some cinematography on and camera operating. Brought some of my kit down. Worked alongside Kamel, who was the DOP of the film, and we did it on and off for quite a while. It was an ongoing shoot, and again that turned out really well. I have a lot of respect for Alex. I think Alex is a very talented filmmaker, and I did really appreciate what he was doing with Bittersweet, and I thought it was very good actually. And that was my first real experience working with Alex. But I obviously got Alex involved in productions that I had done, and he also worked on productions that Kamel Yildirim done, which I was involved with as a DOP. So we ended up working together quite a lot. Really, there was this intense year. So from the end of 2007 through till the beginning of the end of 2008, very prolific. How many films exactly off the top of my head? My gosh, I don't know, because we did a lot of shoots. Some of the films have been re-edited and used, and it's a mess. But we did. Alex came on board and worked on my very big film Tortured, aka Sex Slave, which was later to become Psychopaths after additional shoots and a re-release. So, you know, that's one big film we worked on. He also worked on mine and Kamel's short film Demon Scroll. I did a film called Cut and Paste that I teamed up with Alex on. It was very much mine and Alex's answer to Lucio Fulci's Cat in the Brain. Again, a great, fantastic night of filmmaking and madness, which led to mad places. So much so that years later, when Alex went back to Russia, I actually got in touch with him and told him to shoot some footage to send to me to use in the sequel, Cut and Paste 2, which I made here in the UK. And it was a crazy collaboration, which ended up getting made and released as well. So that's another film that we did together. And who can forget my my crazy triple X exploitation film Naked Nazi that Alex and Mathis Vogel worked on. It was a great experience, I must admit. A bit offensive to some people, not maybe one of the highlighted things of my film career, but yet something that got out there, very well released. Probably one of my better and biggest releases at the time and successes. So what's that saying about the film world, eh? All this ties into the trip as well. This is all kind of what the trip is about, ironically. And as I was saying, like Naked Nazi it's a landmark to me. It's a film I'll never forget. It was actually a very good experience, and I was really glad that Alex was on board with me, because out of all people, Alex was probably one of the best people to be on board that production with me, because he got what I wanted and where I was going, and we teamed up. He actually shot some stuff that day for a version of the trip, the Naked trip footage from that day was used for, and I also used it for my Forks trailer, my fake trailer that I used at the beginning of Tortured that was released. So I mean, it was me and Alex did something crazy. We spent half a day filming a feature film which was released, which also had additional footage used for another short film, another fake trailer, another feature film, and his other feature film. I mean, how constructive was that day as a filmmaker? It's unheard of. And then we must have broke a record with that. I mean, it's quite, looking back, it's quite phenomenal, and I'm very proud of that. And I don't think people honestly believe that, but that is the God's honest truth. Amazing. Honestly, truly amazing. But, so yeah, I mean, I do miss working with Alex, obviously, because we live in different countries. It's, the collaboration's not really viable, but the crazy time I spent with him, we got so much done, and I look back with really fond memories, and I miss those days a little bit. And you know, it was a hell of a journey, and it was a very good one, and it really helped to mature me as the filmmaker I am today. I owe a lot to Alex, actually, if I'm honest. So, what made me accept the role of George Eastman? Well, to me, it was a no-brainer. Alex came up with this idea and wanted to do a kind of art house film heading towards feature, kind of on the side pet project. It got me very excited because of the kind of cinema he was referencing in the film, and you know, the style and what he was doing. So I was very intrigued and interested, and as I said, I like collaborating with people, and it's sometimes easier if you haven't got to wear the burden of it being completely your film, so it was appealing. If I'm honest, I'm much more of a behind-the-scenes person and a filmmaker rather than an actor. I don't really pose as an actor. But years ago, back when I started out, I put myself in some films simply because I could rely on myself, and it saved having to deal with other casts and extra expenses and hassle. So I ended up starring in some feature films and short films, which, you know, I don't know if I was any good, but it certainly got some recognition to people, and some of these films have become on to be underground cinema, cult little things, and it certainly I certainly got a reputation for being in these films, so much so that people were asking me to be in their films and stuff, and I try and do the odd cameo here and there for fun, but I certainly do not really venture into acting, to be honest. But the character of George Eastman in The Trip, when I was approached, it was very appealing because it was playing a very exaggerated version of myself, a desperate, struggling filmmaker, and I've been an indie filmmaker since I was a kid, to be honest, and it's been very hard. It's been some very dark times. It's a crazy life and a crazy journey, and I felt like I could express this through George Eastman in The Trip. So I found it a way to really express my struggles and journey as a filmmaker onto the screen, which, you know, what better way to do it? Presenting your journey in a film as a filmmaker for film. It was perfect. So yeah, I was on board that. That's why I accepted it, and plus because it was a collaboration, I kind of had a little bit of an input into George Eastman's character and the story and where he was going, and you know, it was Alex's baby. He was in the driving seat, but I was able to come on board and help co-produce this to get this thing going. I had the equipment. We got access to locations, and I helped get some stuff, and it just came together. Me and Alex pretty much banged our heads together, and you know, we started this journey, which became a journey I didn't think it would become. It became a lot more meaningful and impactful and more of a life impact than I ever thought it would be, to be honest. And in for a good way, a positive way. It was a good shoot. How many days did we shoot the trip? I believe, going through some rushes recently, remastering some old Super 8 footage for Alex for a new edit, which I'm very looking forward to. I believe it was about 8. I know we did 6 days principal photography, but then we did some additional scenes and subplots that didn't quite make it into the edit, but I'm hoping it makes it into the new one. And they were another 2 days, so that's like 8. But saying that, so I think it was about 8 at the top of my head. We did do a lot of it. We did a lot of filming here and there and bits and pieces as well. So I think it was about 8 personally, but it was spread over a period of a few months. And so we were always doing little pickups, and me and Alex were meeting up and doing bits on it and tweaking stuff. So it was a couple of months' work in all. We filmed all over the place. We filmed in Milton Keynes, where I'm based, but we also filmed in Bedford, where I got access to some locations. We took an actual road trip and went down to Southend and filmed at the coast, which was part of the whole going on a trip and a journey. And we also drove around and filmed in Northamptonshire and places. So we were out and about. It was a spread out shoot for sure, various locations. It was quite a guerrilla shoot, although we said we did get. It was mixed. It was half and half. There was some very guerrilla techniques going on, which added to the film because of the kind of film it was. I don't think any of it was particularly over hard and challenging for me, if I'm honest. I was enjoying the journey and I was really into it. So nothing stands out as being really tough. I think some of the scenes with me and Jenny on our own, where I took her on the run, and the more emotional scenes were probably one of the most challenging things, and that's because it was quite emotionally intimate, and George expressed himself, which I as a person can find it hard to express myself at times. I can keep a lot in, and I struggle with various things, to be honest. And George is a very similar character to myself, and so I found it hard opening my character up and making my character vulnerable to the world. But it was all good. It was all good fun, really. As I say, it was. Did I learn anything through the shoot? Looking back 10 years later, I think it was the start of me finding my feet more as a filmmaker and a person. When I did the trip, I was at a funny point in my life, I must admit. A lot of personal things were going on actually around the time we shot the trip, and my life changed drastically in those few months of filming the trip. It was actually quite, looking back, it was a roller coaster of what I was going through in the film and outside the film. So actually it was pretty mad. So I think I discovered a bit more about myself, if I'm honest. So it was a very good thing for me to do, actually. It was a very good thing for me to do. I was able to explore my emotions more. It was almost like a bit of therapy for me, to be honest. What was it like working with Jenny Newland? So yeah, what was it like working with Jenny Newland? Well, it was fantastic. Me and Jenny had worked together previously, 2 years prior, where she had been in some of my shorts and feature films. So my relationship working with her had been me being the director and directing her, and we built up this professional working relationship. But when I started Bittersweet with Alex, throughout the production, he gave a cameo to me and Jenny to do, and it was him directing us on screen as a couple in a scene, and it was a different kind of experience for me because I'd been used to working with Jenny as me behind the camera, telling her what to do, but this time we were playing characters, being directed ourselves by and interaction on screen. Alex kind of really liked what he saw and saw that there was on-screen chemistry, which I felt as well. I felt like we did bounce off one another. We had done something previous in one of my short films, but I'd still kind of been co-directing that, and it was a bit of a different kind of bar. But it built up. It was in Demon Scroll, where we'd played this arguing couple, and then we took it to a new level in Bittersweet. And so that was kind of part of the premise of what led to the trip. I can't think of anyone else better than Jenny that did that part. It was really, she was really professional. She took her role seriously, she took her acting seriously. She really wanted to do it, she had a drive, and you know, she was very good to work with, and she was professional, and I respected how serious she took it. And I enjoyed working alongside her, and it added to George Eastman's incredible journey. Really, she was very loyal to the project as well, and there was a lot of close, intimate, emotional scenes with me and Jenny, and it was only really me, Jenny, and Alex around, so the three of us formed quite a strong bond that, you know, I still hold close to me these days. You know, looking back, we built some very good friendship foundations there, and I think that helped with the production, and I think it shows on screen as well. How is the finished film from what I imagined it would be? Well, it depends on what version you're talking about, because I recently, going through my archive, unearthed like a 44-minute work print on DVD that I have a master of, and there's obviously the officially released DVD, and then there's Alex's new version he did a few years ago called Crash Zoom. So it really depends on what version, but they're all similar. Because I was involved quite heavily in all aspects of the production, pre-production and post itself, I kind of saw and knew how it was coming together. I knew it was going to be an arty film. I think it turned out even more meaningful and arty than I believed. I think the George Eastman in me. I think me and George were one, and I said I was going through a lot at that time in my life as well, and as a filmmaker and personally, and dealing with George's character as myself. I think that Alex was going for a very artistic, deep film, which I kind of was on board with. I think he was going even more artistic than I originally realised. I think partly my fault is when I did the tweak edit, I was going for a more straight-laced drama film, and it deserved more than that, and I kind of missed and took my eye off the ball there, and I think Alex was going for a more heavier arty film, and I think Alex's way is better. I think 10 years later, him revisiting doing a Redux is the opportunity to make it the best it can be. And you know, I think it's a strong, impactful film, and poor Alex had to deal with some stupid things. Some of the subplots are there, they help build it, but, you know, me and Alex were pretty much doing it all ourselves. Alex driving the ship, and the film did run smooth. It was very good until the end. Certain things went all wrong at the end for the subplot parts, and additional characters coming on to help structure the film, but became a hindrance to Alex and caused problems, and it's ridiculous, and it pisses me off, because sometimes people can't see it from a filmmaker's point of view. So people are very selfish and self-centered and kind of rude and cruel. And Alex had to deal with some unnecessary stuff. It's really hard making a feature film independently, on your own, and putting your heart and soul into that. So to get more crap thrown at you, because you're already dealing with enough, is horrible. It's horrendous, and it's a shame it happens. And it happens far too much in the indie film world. I mean, it's a major rant of mine for another day, but poor Alex took a big brunt of that. There were some cool things shot, which would have changed the narrative a bit, and maybe kind of tied and ending up. I kind of like the ending as it is, but there was also a definitive ending that would have maybe sealed the deal. But again, this is a chance for Alex to really express himself and bring it all together, doing a redux, which I'm very excited about. I believe he does pretty much have all the footage now. I've recently remastered some of the Super 8 stuff we shot, sent it over, and it was great seeing some of that footage again. And there was some cool shots that I unearthed again. There was such good stuff for that. I think it turned out fairly well. I think it could be a bit stronger and improved. I think that's partly down to me. I think that's partly my fault. I was in a different headspace 10 years ago as a filmmaker and a person, and dealing with a very intimate character which is very close to my own. So, but the film is more heavier and deeper than I could have imagined, and that's a good thing. It is actually a very good thing. It's a very powerful and strong moving story. If you dig deep and take the subtext out, you can find a lot of meaning to the trip. It can speak out to a wide variety of people who struggle with life, which is a lot of people. Life is a tough game to play, so to speak. How much was the budget? I mean, don't shoot me. I think I believe it was a few £100. I know one of the most expensive things is we shot some stuff on Super 8, did a few cans of film, rolls of film rather, and we had to shoot on film, get it developed, and then get it processed and transferred to digital, and so there was 3 processes to that. That was quite expensive. That took quite a chunk. And then there was just some general travelling around and catering and various things, but there was nothing too elaborate. So I remember it being a few hundred. It was spent on the production over this period of time. It was a self-funded project, so it was a tight budget. It was a tight budget, but I think we did quite a lot considering. We didn't let the budget restrain or stop us from pushing it as far as we could. In fact, I think sometimes being on a stricter, tighter budget makes you think more outside the box and forces you to be more creative and find ways around things, and usually more creative ways around challenges that you may be faced with. So again, it's not necessarily a bad thing that it was a low budget. I think it adds and helps the kind of film and the subject it was tackling. It did us a bit of a favour and added to it. So yeah, the trip, as well as being George Eastman, I worked closely alongside Alex. It was kind of our baby. Like it's his real little child he's gave birth to here, and I've tried to support him as best I could by giving input into George Eastman's journey, helping out technically, because I'm a technical person, I'm a filmmaker myself. I had a lot of equipment I could supply and help set up and do the sound and get stuff rigged up. Obviously had editing facilities I supplied and helped with and tweaked and co-edited alongside him. So me and Alex basically wore all the hats of a production crew for the trip. He had a lot to contend with. We shot it on HDV, which was the kind of format that never was. HDV had kind of come in, never really took off, but we had it. So it was shot HD, but it was a strange format, that was, and it was still on tape as well. And so Alex created a timeline on the edit suite, started doing this epic edit, but there was an issue with the format on this timeline. The HDV settings weren't quite right. Basically, he'd done all this editing and it couldn't be used. It was a waste, and I felt really sorry for him. I had to sort out a new timeline and get him on his way again and then do the tweaks. So it was a real, it did upset him. It was down for him. I felt for him. I've had similar things myself, and it's very disheartening and very hard. But he battled through it and he got on with it like the trooper he is. And I have a lot of respect and admire Alex for doing that. He was a true passionate filmmaker, that man. Well, imagine a sequel to The Trip and George Eastman 10 years later. I'd like to think that George Eastman is still running around making films. He's not a quitter, he's a fighter. He still pushing himself, I think he'd be struggling with mental issues and relationship issues, partly to do with embarking on being a crazy filmmaker. But he still lives here in me. I still have a bit of George Eastman pushing me along, encouraging me to not give up and fight that crazy hard world of uphill struggling in filmmaking. It would be interesting to have a little look into the life of George Eastman 10 years later, but I think you'd find that he's up to his old tricks, but maturing, but still battling life and still recovering from the ordeals that he went through 10 years earlier, because these things just don't go away that easily. But I keep George Eastman close to the heart, and I still take inspiration from George Eastman to this day. It's I look back still with fond memories, and George Eastman's passion lives and burns in me still, and it shall always, for a part of it shall always be there. So yeah, I've been an indie filmmaker pretty much all my life. I made my first short film when I was 10, went into college at 16, studying film and doing students, and straight out at 19, making my first short horror film and into freelancing. So I've had a good 15 years of actually being out in the big bad world doing my own independent productions, and what has changed in the last 10 years since doing the trip from 2007 and 8, well, my biggest change that I've seen is technology. You can pick up a mobile phone these days and shoot a film as good as the trip, if not look even better than the equipment used back then, which is crazy. It's made it more accessible, but there's also a lot more competition, so you're a much smaller fish in a much bigger pond or sea, however you want to look at it. So it's easier to make a film that's more accessible, which is a good thing, but it's also harder to get noticed and get your work out there because it's just swallowing the whole. Another massive change I've seen is distribution and actually VOD and digital streaming. I personally love physical media, and I'm a collector. I love your extras and your artwork and your booklet, and the full package is great. I love getting my films like that. I love getting my films released like that, and also collecting and purchasing films like that. But I do appreciate the convenience, and for a bigger, wider audience, how you can just access films easier and see them instantly and view them, and it's good. For a filmmaker, it's also been very good in the respect of self-distribution's easier. There's less overhead costs, and you can get your film out there. And it has actually it has enabled an extra stream of revenue from filmmaking, which is always hard anyway. So I do embrace it for that, but it's just finding the right balance between them both, because I know that physical media has had a lot of strain over the years and is under fire a bit. So it'd be nice to have a bit of balance and not digital to completely take over. I'm glad I started out years ago and had a play with analogue and tape and film and all that, and it's made me the filmmaker I am today, and it's been a journey, almost like the George Eastman story, running parallel with me. To start out just now and go digitally and releasing digitally, it's cool, but I feel like something was missing. I like the fact that I've matured and grown on this journey with the technology and the changes. But I do think the biggest changes is technology, to be honest, particularly digital distribution and equipment wise, being digitally filming, cameras smaller, mobile devices having cameras and stuff. That's what I feel has been a game changer. I must say, I think people's attitudes have also changed a bit. I don't think people get quite excited anymore. They're more ruthless and businesslike about it. I think a bit of the artisticness and passion has been lost a bit from a generation. There are still some fantastic creative artistic people out there, and it does live still, but I do feel like attitudes aren't as good as they used to be. The passion isn't what it used to be. I just don't feel it amongst people like I used to. But I think life has just become harder and more challenging, but as the years go on, I think the arts are stamped on a lot by politics and governments. If I'm honest, that's how I just personally feel. Don't want to get all political about it, but can't help but deal with politics throughout filmmaking, and then I just feel like life is manic, people are busy, art is forgotten sometimes, and you know, with technology allowing a lot more access to filmmaking, a lot of rubbish also comes in. Just like, you know, silly amateur videos are more popular on streaming sites than a well thought out, well made film. And it's a shame sometimes because, you know, a blog or a vlog will be more successful than like a great short film. And then, you know, I just find that a bit sad, if I'm honest. I feel like there's a bit of degradedness in the underground world of film going on a bit. But, you know, these things happen, I'm sure. I'm sure it will. Film will find a way. It always does. But looking back, the trip was a real personal project to me. I loved doing it. Working with Alex was fantastic. George Eastman changed my life, to be honest. He still lives with me to this day, and it was an eye-opener, and it helped shape a new trip for me as a filmmaker. So I enjoyed the trip, and I'm still on the trip.